People think that success is just like an open door.
Yeah.
It's not. There is a level of like opportunity that you need, but the most important factor of success is purely just consistency. Can you show up every day?
Yeah.
No matter if it's rain, sunshine,
Yeah.
rainbows, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Can you show up every day? The more consistent you are, the more opportunities
The
you
luckier
have. And then the luckier you get.
Yep. Welcome back to another episode of The Hustler's Journey. Today's guest, the youngest entrepreneur in the AI space, making over $750,000 at just 20 years old. He's built some of the best AI powered apps that you've probably heard of, like Musicfy, Creo, and so much more. Is none other than Arib Khan.
As your ego gets bigger, you do think you're invincible, and I've said that many times, but there's a saying by Sam Altman, who's like founder of OpenAI, founder of ChatGPT. The best people that he knows that have built the biggest companies are delusionally like optimistic about themselves, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is when you're delusionally optimistic about yourself, sometimes that optimism can be turned into pessimism about someone else. I can do it, he definitely can't do it, which is a wrong mindset to have, right? Like, I think it all started from like understanding that you could exchange physical goods for actual money. The first moment of business that I ever had was I had a chocolate bar in one hand, and in the next minute I had $1.
Arib, my brother.
What an intro, holy
Thanks
shit.
for coming on the show, man.
What's up, welcome. I'm excited.
I'm super excited to get into it, man. I had you on the show, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago in Dubai. You know, we had a great time then. At that time, you were in the process of building Musicfy. You were doing around, 100K a month. You were freaking killing it for a 19-year-old. And then here we are now in, July, August of 2024, and you're in a completely different space. You've built a couple different companies. So, I mean, you kind of already know what the process of this looks like. So with the Hustler's Journey, our entire goal is just to show like everyday people, like you can do this. And this is what the journey that you had to go through to get to where you are today. So like, take me all the way back to start off. Like, who's Arib? How'd you get started? How was your process? Like, walk me through it.
Yeah, I think in the last podcast, I talked a lot about like the current moment. Yeah. But I'll talk a little bit more about the past. I remember last time I shared like the story of how I sold chocolates.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, and then in high school I started like a community for people to learn how to trade stocks or basically real estate, whatever it may be, like a hustle to make money. But if you really go back to it, I think it all started from like understanding that you could exchange physical goods for actual money. And I think I told the story last time, but it was like the first moment of business that I ever had was I had a chocolate bar in one hand, and in the next minute I had $1. And that taught me a lot, right? Like people value, you can change things for things of value, right? Now you can take that $1 and buy something with it.
100%.
So yeah, that's kind of like very long ago. Started by selling chocolates in middle school. Very quickly scaled up this small business in middle school to sell chocolate to my friends, to have like 3 or 4 middle schools in my area selling chocolates, and me and my friends making like around $1,000 a month.
Well, franchise model.
Yeah,
going.
like 12, 13. And then in middle school, in early high school, I started like playing around with stocks. I remember all the money I would make. I never bought anything for myself. I would always just put it right into stocks. Then in stocks, I had a few really good investments that made a lot of money. And from then, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to just trade stocks for the rest of my life. Very quickly realized like what goes up can also come down.
100%.
And that's actually where I started realizing like, all right, cool. Like this isn't the escape. Like money's not easy to make, right? You have like whatever is hard is where the money's worth having. So I left stocks, started building companies, and fast forward to today, and now we do like around $750K a month with 2 companies in particular. One is called Musicfy, which is one of the biggest AI music voice tools in the planet right now. We have like over 5 million users, which is really cool. And then we have another tool called Creo, which we launched about 4 or 5 months ago with a cool team. That company scaled from 0 to $500K a month in like the span of 4 months. That's without spending $0 on marketing, which is pretty cool. That's
insane. So all just organic content.
All organic content, working with distribution audiences, right? Like the reason we built the company was because we knew like 2 of our partners had a huge amount of distribution in a specific niche, and we're like, all right, cool, let's bring them onto the team, so we don't have to pay them, and build something big with them.
I love that. And we'll talk about that too, on like your model and your mindset of like building businesses, which is completely different from what an everyday entrepreneur does. But just walk me through just initial thoughts. Someone's watching the show, like what the hell is AI? What are you building? Just give us a little analysis of like what you do, your software, background, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so I guess like the quick TLDR is at 15, I started to learn how to write code and build products. At 17, I had built my first like standalone iOS apps, like websites, whatever it may be. By 18, I had built an app called Musicfy, which was, I was doing like this 12-month thing where every month I was trying to build a new AI app to like kind of get better at coding. Yeah. This is right after I left a company called BuildSpace. They had raised $20 million. I learned a lot about like leading a team and building a product. And I was like, all right, cool. I learned about the leadership style of stuff and a little bit of the technical skills. Let me hone in on my technical skills for another year. Yeah. So I spent 4 or 5 months kind of building new products every month. One product ended up being Musicfy, which is the one that has 5 million users now. And basically for that, I was in a Discord server and there was a few people in the server talking about, oh, dude, like this model can be used to convert your voice to Drake. That's like very cool. Yeah. And I remember there was this particular like request in the Discord. Someone had written, what is a print error? So if you know how to write code, you know a print error is like the simplest form of an error. Okay. And by seeing someone type that, I had realized like not only were developers trying to use this tech and these models, but regular people were as well, right? So if someone's going through all that trouble, like basically learning how to code to use this piece of tech, someone should build a simple interface for it, right? Yeah. So I spent a week, built a simple interface, and then 7 days after I had launched that, it was at 100,000 users. So there's a little bit of luck in there, but it's just like also seeing where what people want, right? Yeah. What demand there is for something. And yeah, so built that and then fast forward today. Now I build, we have around 6 companies in our portfolio. Okay. By the end of the year, we plan to scale a little bit more. And we've been acquiring software companies. So we have like 2 that we bought over the last few months. And Creo itself is another holding company, which has been acquiring and scaling new products. So we're launching a new product this year called Viral Engine, which is a newsletter that has over like 600,000 subscribers already, talking about how to go viral. We have another product called Clipper, which we're bringing on Cenat, Aiden Ross, all these big streamers, basically clipping software, right? I love it. And basically figuring out how you can automate going viral, right? Going viral, you can actually pay to go viral nowadays, right? Like how these streamers go viral is not because their content is like next level. It's because they know how to get eyes on their content by millions 100%. And incentivizing people to clip their content, right? So it's like we're building tools to pretty much automate going viral. That's our goal. I love
that because I mean now in 2024, attention is a new currency, right?
100%.
So if you can get the eyeballs.
Yeah. Well, I guess like the next big thing is like the next billion-dollar companies are going to be companies that are built by creators, right?
100%.
People that can bring billions of eyes, millions of eyes to products, right? A great example is like Mr. Beast and what he's doing, but the OG examples are like Maverick, right? Like the clothing brand Logan Paul started. He was doing $1 million a day. So it's like you have to look at like times are changing. People that have eyes are now making way more than people that have good products.
100%. So I say this all the time. I literally said it on my last podcast. It's like literally the next wave of billionaires are going to be content creators, and it goes back to even one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Alex Ramosi. He talked about how, you know, he found out that Kylie Jenner made $1 billion and he was like, he got pissed off because he's like, I know more about business than she does. Yeah. How the hell did she make $1 billion? When he realized, okay, she has a brand.
The classic example is like, you may have the best food in the world at your restaurant, but if no one knows your restaurant exists, no one's going to come. But you may 100%. Have just mid-tier food at your restaurant, but if everyone knows it exists, it's going to be a line every single day.
100%.
So it's just like, you have to get a mixture of both, but at the beginning, it's very important to have distribution rather than a very good product.
I love it.
So yeah.
So I mean, again, you are probably the youngest guy that I know in the AI space, or really someone that's killed the AI space, no matter what the age is. You know what I mean? So talk to me about like just the AI world in general. Like, where do you see it going? Like, how important is it for someone that's watching this to be okay? Like, I should learn a little bit more about AI and the power of it.
Yeah. So I guess like since we last talked, there's been a lot of things that have changed, right? There was a big fear of like people losing their jobs because like AI would replace them. It's exactly like last time I mentioned this as well. It's like, it's not the people that are going to lose their jobs because AI is going to replace them. It's going to be the people that know how to use AI well, that will be able to replace other employees. And what I mean by that is like right now at our company, we employ like about 12, 13 people, but 3 years ago we would have to have like 30 or 40, right? Yeah. But now what's happened is like every single employee that we have now is 10 times more efficient, right? Because they have these AI tools, whether that be ChatGPT or like Cursor, it's like an AI writing coding assistant. You have like all these different tools that can just make you more efficient, right? And efficient employees are the people that get hired, right?
100%.
Not the ones that are extra smart or whatever it may be. It's the people that can get the job done with the least amount of effort and for the lowest cost. So efficiency's gone up through the roof, right? There's a saying that in this generation we're gonna have our first companies that are like gonna be 10% teams that are gonna be $1 billion companies, right? Yeah. Because you can accomplish so much more now with the amount of tech and and power that we have just lying around. So that's kind of like the landscape change right now. I expect it to just kind of continue happening. I mean, right now it's historically been one of the worst days in the stock market as of today. And that's just because unemployment is an all-time high, right? And I think there was a big disconnect of like people who are fearing AI, and there's a bigger disconnect of people that actually use it. And the people that use it are the ones that still have jobs.
100%.
A lot of people are just, like complaining gets you nowhere, That's the main thing, right? It's like you either act or you don't act, and that's it.
You either learn how to adapt with it and grow with it, or...
it's the same thing when the internet came out, right? There was like a whole group of people that were like, oh, this is not going to do anything. Go to the library, blah, blah, blah. But people that learned how to leverage the internet, they became billionaires, millionaires, 100%. Whatever it may be. So it's always like adaptation is like the way to survive, right? If you know how to adapt, you can survive.
100%. I mean, talk to me about like the entrepreneurship side of this. I mean, you were literally 18, 19, now 20 years old, building multi-million-dollar companies, 6 figures a month. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Walk me through, I mean, one, what's the highs of making that much money this young? But then two, like, what's the lows? I feel like I said this in my intro, like you've gone through a cycle that a 30-year-old entrepreneur goes through in like 3 years. Yeah.
So I think you mentioned that I started at 18. I think they're like the real start of something real, like something that makes 5K, 10K a month, starts at 18. But like your emotional cycle for business starts way younger. Like 12, whatever. Whenever you make that first transaction, right? I remember like sitting in middle school class and like being $3 up on a stock, and I remember that feeling was amazing, right? Like that's a great feeling. It's like your emotional journey starts way earlier. I guess like there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows. One thing is, as you have more success, the highs are diluted. So basically what that means is I remember the first time I had made my first $100 online, and that feeling was insane. And now when I make $100,000, that feeling, it's not as good as the first $100, So it's like your highs are diluted, but then also your lows are just bigger because you have a lot more to lose. One thing that I can talk about here is like what success does to a lot of people is like it can cause you to lose your mind in many ways. One example I'll use is like I remember I went from like working really hard for a really long time, just hitting the wall, 5, 6, 7K, 8K, and then I went from $8,000 a month to $100,000 a month in 2 months, right? And when you see that type of growth, and also like there's a level of immaturity, like because I am younger, right? A lot of people that are younger, when they see that level of growth, they feel invincible, right? So there was I think even in the last podcast when I was talking, I maybe felt a little bit invincible, right? Like, oh, like no one can touch me. I'm going to just keep doing my own thing. Like I'm successful, I'm self-made. And those are things when you look back, you understand that that's like not true in any way. But in the moment you feel like invincible. And you also feel like anyone else's feedback is not for your benefit,
100%.
But it's to like take you down, right? Like, oh, you're doing so well. Like we want to suppress
slow down
that. And so yeah, like ego is one thing that you kind of gain very quickly once you have some level of success. I think another thing is like there was a level of insecurity that most founders have a level of insecurity around like building companies and products because they have something to prove to the world, right?
100%.
I want to show these people that didn't bet on me that I could do it. And it's great when you don't have like anything big on your resume to have that mindset because like it drives you, right? I think to a level like the reason I built big companies was because of that, right? To prove people wrong. But once you've done that, you don't need to keep proving people wrong,
you have nothing
right?
to prove anymore.
So it's like when I went from 0 to like 100K a month, like I had proved them wrong. But I didn't, and it was like this mindset. It took a long time for this mindset shift to happen. It took a few months, but I was still in the mindset of like, oh, I still need to prove to people that I'm all this, I'm all that. So I remember for a few months when I had made like I was making like 100, 200K a month, I was just letting everyone know, like for some sort of validation, which I think is one of the things that can go wrong very quickly when you make a lot of money when you're young. So that's one. Second is, as your ego gets bigger, you think you're invincible, and I've said that many times, but not to the point of like, all right, there's a saying by Sam Altman, who's like founder of OpenAI, founder of ChatGPT. He said the best people that he knows that have built the biggest companies are delusionally like optimistic about themselves, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is when you're delusionally optimistic about yourselves, sometimes that optimism can be turned into pessimism about someone else, right? Like, oh, I can do this, but that person can't do shit.
100%.
And like that was another thing that happened, right? I was like, oh, like I can do it. He definitely can't do it. Which is a wrong mindset to have, right? Like it doesn't matter what other people do.
It's all about,
you should only care about what you do. And there's also like you get to the point where like you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
So those are two shifts that I've had to learn over the last 2 years that took a long time to learn. But yeah, I think one of the big mistakes that's been happening is a lot of people I've seen that have made money at the age that we're at, 18, 17, 19, 20, whatever it is, they make it very quickly, and they feel invincible, and they start becoming assholes to everyone around them because they feel that they're better than them. And I did that for a little bit, but looking back, those were mistakes, and I think like you have to kind of you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only
100%.
connect them looking back.
Absolutely.
So it's like reflective. But yeah, that's like one lesson that took a long time. It takes a punch in the face to realize that, right? Someone that's real to you has to say something. And most people that are real to you won't say anything because they know you'll take it the wrong way.
100%.
So the realest guys are the ones that are willing to punch you in the face, and you call them out on it or whatever it may be. But those are the people you keep around, people
100%.
that are real to you at all the time.
100%, and that's the power of like your crew and your people. But like you said, that's something you can only realize looking back. Like it's only now Arib now at 20 years old I can look like, damn, 19 years old Arib was not. He was super young. He still had a lot to go. But the fact that you can come back now at 20 years old and be okay, I learned the person I want to be and who I don't want to be. Like that's huge.
Yeah. You realize, like, I think I wrote a tweet today. And it was a question that I was asked a few months ago, and someone asked me, who's the richer person, the giver or the taker, right? So it's like the person that takes everything in life, that wants everything in life. Like for a long time in my life, I still want like the nicer things in life, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But and I had this moment in my life where I was like, oh, I'm self-made, did this, like I'm better than other people because I worked hard for this shit. And what happens is that feeds your ego, and when your ego grows, what happens is you start feeling like you're better than everyone else, and you don't feel like this need to give back, right? It's like in the tweet I mentioned, like what I have now is not because of what I did. It's because of the circumstances I was brought up in, the people I was surrounded by, the things that were given to me, the opportunities that were around me. So it's like I had nothing to control in that, right? I didn't control where I was born. I didn't control if I had clean water to drink.
100%.
I didn't control if I had good parents, right?
100%.
So you have to remember there's like a bigger thing. For me, that's God, Allah. And then the other thing is like you weren't built by just God. You're built by your community as well, right? There was people that gave stuff to you
100%.
with nothing expectation of in return, right?
100%.
So it's like you have to remember like there's no such thing as a self-made person, and once you realize that, really deep it, you realize like, all right, cool, like I'm really lucky. And when you have that self-realization, you remember to give back and do the things that people did for you. You won't remember them,
100%.
but do what you can for others.
And we talked about this briefly too yesterday, and it's like the power of like, again, just like you're from Pakistan, like I'm from Ethiopia. We were talking about like, going back home and seeing like people literally not having water, food, living off of $1 a day, like
real shit, bro.
Like real life shit. And we're coming over here complaining about, oh, like life's hard, yada yada. It's like, no, like you have the opportunity to go out and literally do anything you want, and like you said, like, and no one's self-made. It's like
no one is self-made, bro. That's like that's the thing that like a lot, like that's where your ego gets messed up. If you think you're self-made, your ego's already messed up.
100%.
And that was me for like a few years, and now I'm looking back.
And I mentioned this to you too, but I think also a lot of like what your success attributes to is like the amount that you do give back. I feel like every time you give back and you gave back, you just kept on skyrocketing. Like I know the first project that I know that you worked on was like Project Iftar. Like you guys fed over like how many families? Like
we fed like 50,000 people, and that was right before I made my first like 100K month. That was when I was making 8K a month, right? And it wasn't like and I think we talked about this yesterday as well, right? It's like the scaling thing. Like it doesn't matter how big of a scale or small of a scale you do something, the intention matters, right?
100%.
Like I want to go feed someone because I want to go feed someone. That's as valuable in the eyes of like Allah than like I want to go feed someone, I'm going to feed 100 people.
If you right now at $750,000 a month can go, which we'll talk about, you're building a mosque right now. You can go build a mosque. You can go feed 100,000 people. But let's say me, I'm making 100K a year, and I go, okay, I'm gonna go feed 2 people today or tomorrow.
Do that.
It's the same. It's the intention.
Like the thing is, you can't judge other people's good actions, right? Like the only judge is that is Allah. So you can't even think about comprehending 100%. Like you may not know, like, but that may be like that guy's last $100,000. That may be your last act. You may be making 100K a month, and maybe your last act is you fed 2 people and you passed away.
100%.
Another thing that has changed is I think we talked about this yesterday, which was like death, right? People fear death. It's like one of the things that is, there's like public speaking and then there's death. 2 biggest fears like that people have. I don't fear death at all. And I told you why, right? It's like 2 years ago, maybe I would have, because I was making a lot of money and I was like, oh, I'll do all these things later on in life. I'll build a mosque later on in life. I'll be better, son, do this, do that. But I realized like, yo, like, you don't know if you're going to have a later on, right? The classic example most of my friends use, right? A lot of my friends are really rich. They make a lot of money. And they use like the example of like, you know, John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller, right? He made a lot of money in his life. And then later on, he realized, you know, like, time to give back. And that's the thing that everyone hopes for. You know, make a lot of money, enjoy your life, and at the end, just give back. You know, 100%. Die without a dollar. But there were so many stories of people that didn't make it that far. The people that died on that way, and they won't be remembered, right? So it's like, and they won't be talked about. So it's not, my goal is not even to be talked about or remembered or whatever it may be. It's to live my life in a way where if I die today, I'm okay with it.
100%.
And you have this level of contentment, right? Like I'm doing any intention I have, I act on it, right? So it's like the main thing is like act on your intentions. If you want to do something, if you have this thing of like, oh, I want to go feed people, or I want to open a nonprofit, or I want to do this, do it now. There's nothing like the only thing that's stopping you now is like the scale of what you can do.
100%.
But that doesn't matter. It's your intention that matters, right? Like as long as you go out and actually do something about it, that's all that matters.
100%.
And that's just something that like over the years I've realized like that's been my greatest investment, right? Like my greatest investment has not been like the time that I spent writing code or doing this or doing that. It was a time that I spent giving back to others because that showed me different. That's a full life, bro.
100%.
Like there was a saying that it's like, what is a rich life? Someone that has millions in the bank or someone that makes other people's lives better? That's 100%. A rich life.
100%.
So it's like, I want to live that type of life. I don't want to be remembered for like making any money or like whatever it may be. I just want to be remembered because I took care of my family, took care of myself, and I did what I wanted to do, and I had pure intentions behind what I did.
100%.
That's it.
And we talked about this too. It's like, and you said this like when we talked yesterday. It's like at first, it's like again, it's all about making money, proving yourself, whatever, yada yada, shiny object, and then there's a huge shift a couple of months, years later, where you're like, okay, no. Especially when you're building companies, it's like, all right, it's about the team, it's about the family. It's like you were talking about, like, you know, like most of your team is like they're married. They're married.
You're affecting a lot more people.
Exactly. So now it's not just about you. It's about, okay, like I have a whole organization to take care of, and like you have the responsibility as a CEO, as a founder, to be like, okay, somehow, some way, we're gonna have clients coming in no matter what. We're gonna have business coming in. We're gonna have sales coming in. So it's just a much bigger perspective than just like what you were at 18 years old.
I think one time, a long time ago, someone had told me like one of the best acts of charity is actually building a company. You know, because you're actually providing for not only like yourself and the people around you, but you have employees. You're paying their salaries. Those guys are taking their kids on vacations. They're paying for their son's schooling, whatever it may be. So it's a great act of charity to build a company.
100%.
Do it the right way. Don't do it with blood money. Don't do it with like any bad intentions. There's no baraka in it, right? Like the word baraka means like there's more. Right.
So I mean, talk to me about, you know, how, like, one, obviously it's just like building any company in general is super hard. Building a company to $750,000 a month, $500,000, $200,000 a month is even way harder. Like, walk me through that, what that's like, the stress that, because again, like I know how much you work, right? So it's like, walk me through that.
Yeah, I think it's actually compared to what I used to do at the beginning. Like I remember when I was first starting out, like I had this thing where most entrepreneurs have this, where it's like, oh, I would sacrifice anything for that $100,000 a month, or I would sacrifice anything for this and that. It was like a level of delusion, right? It's like, oh, cool, I will work so hard until I can't stop, like literally can't do anything more to get there. So once I hit my first $100,000 a month, I was like, all right, cool, this is great. But your life, like the quality of things diminish, right? So it's like, it's the law of, what's it, the returns?
Yep. It's like
diminishing returns.
Diminishing
returns, right? So it's like, okay, you make like 10K a month, 5K a month, right? First of all, you're living like average life. That's great. Like even an American average life is golden compared to most people in the world, 100%. Right? You're in the top 1% at that point. But at $100,000 a month, you're top 0.1% of the world. Even in the US, you're top 1%. So that's like, you're already golden. But now like from 100K to 700K, my life doesn't change. 700K to $1 million, it doesn't really change. Like whatever, like I've realized like, I had a friend that I had a conversation with 2 weeks ago in Marbella, and we were talking, his name is Alex Chen. He's a really cool guy, ecom, makes a lot of money. And I asked him, I was like, yo, like, what would you sacrifice to make $1 million a month? And he was like, bro, I would chop off my arm. And there's people that are hungry like that, and I can respect it, but I'm not like that anymore. You know, like I think there's a lot more for me outside of that that I don't need to sacrifice it. And whatever I do now is not because of like I do it for myself. Like the amount of money I make now doesn't really affect me. It affects the ability the things that I could do for others around me, right? That's the main thing. Like my life is not going to change like at all for the most part. So yeah, it's been
and you don't even
journey.
live like, again, I know you, have known you before you had money, I know you now when you have money. It's like you don't live that lavish, extravagant life. Like you're very humble, very like, you don't wear designer clothes, you don't, go out and
you're saying like extreme. I live like a nice life in the sense of like, I mean, like we were on a private jet and 100%. This and that, but like I don't care to do it to impress others. It's like I do it for myself, comfortability. I really do think it's important to live a comfortable life. And I think money does help you be comfortable.
Of course.
Like we just came back from Turkey and it was like a 15-hour flight. Like, okay, I'll sit in business or first class. It's just comfortable, right? So it's like I can sit in economy, but if I can, I can afford it, I should do it. But it's not out of like, oh, like arrogance, like I want to show other people that I can do all this.
100%.
It's a comfortability thing now. Before it would have been arrogance. It would have been like, oh, I could prove it to other people. And I think that's one of the main things that happens too. It's like you feel like you need to prove that you can do all these things to everyone. But in reality, you don't need to prove anything to anyone ever. And
that's honestly when you find a little bit of peace in life too. It's like, all right, I have nothing to prove. I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna build my business. I'm gonna take care of my team, and that's pretty much it. That's your life.
That's the realest people I know. The people that are billions of dollars. They don't care. Like they wear a simple black T-shirt. They take care of their family. Help me out a lot. Like with no expectation of return as well, right? So it's like they just know like live a good life and just give back, and that's how you feel fulfilled.
And I asked you a very straightforward question. I was like, where do you see Arib in 5 years? Like, bro, it's same thing. I was building my companies, taking care of my people. That was your response. Like very straightforward, very simple. And I like that a lot. I mean, again, you are like, you're probably the youngest entrepreneur that I've had on here that probably makes more than a lot of the entrepreneurs I have had on here. So like, what's your advice to young entrepreneurs, people that want to get into business, tech, like give us some advice.
I'll give like very broad advice. Like two main things. Like one is a story. I just came back from Spain in Marbella. It was modern day, or it's called Andalusia, right? So part of Spain was owned by like Muslims, and there's a great Muslim culture there. There's a city called Gibraltar. Have you heard of Gibraltar?
No.
Did I tell you the story yesterday?
No, you didn't.
Okay, so Gibraltar is the most southern part of Spain.
Okay.
So like, it's a cove. It's a little pier for boats, and it's called Gibraltar after this guy named Jebel Tarek. Jebel Tarek was this military leader from Morocco. So if you actually go on the coast of Gibraltar, you look across, you can see Africa. You can see Morocco, modern day Morocco. There's a city called Tangier, which is just on the coast. So thousands of years ago, during the Crusades, there used to be a huge Roman army that used to stay on the southern coast of Spain. And this guy, Jebel Tarek, had only about like 5,000 men. He lived in Morocco, and these Romans had been attacking a bunch of little camps, right? A bunch of Muslim camps, and they were like, all right, cool, let's go fight them. Right? And the Roman army was known for being very big in size, very like they would just kill you. They didn't take hostages. They also had armor. They had everything, right? So these were big guys in their eyes. Like if you're testing the Roman army, you needed a lot of people and a lot of manpower. And that's not what the Moroccans had. This was like out of like will, like they were doing it. They were like, hey, we don't want to be attacked next. Let's attack first. So this guy Jebel Tarek, what he did was they took about like 8 or 9 boats, really big boats. It's like about a 30-minute ferry across, right? So they took the boats, they went across and landed on the harbor. And the city of the Romans was like a little bit further in. So they landed on the harbor and they all are getting ready for battle formation. And then he noticed that all of his soldiers were very nervous, right? Like, we should go back. Like, we don't have enough ammo. We don't have enough this. We don't have, like, complaints, right? So he took his assistant, and his assistant went and took all the ships and put them together. And he told his bellboy, hey, pour oil on all the ships. And they poured the oil from, like, the candles, like the wax candles that they have, and they set them on fire. And now they can't go home, right? Like, they can see their land back there, but they can't go home. And basically, he talked to his army, and he was like, hey, look, we either win this battle or we die. We're not going to go home. Like, that's done now. And that may be scary in the moment. But it said that this is a true story, by the way. It's not like just a fable. They won that war. They won that battle. And it said that every soldier that fought that day fought to the extent of 10 soldiers, right? They fought like they were 10 soldiers. Because they knew that they had no plan B, right? Burn the ships is a very famous saying now, but it comes from that story, right? So I guess one lesson for most entrepreneurs is like, if you really want to do something, you need to burn the ships, right? You can't have a safety net. 100%. Because if you're thinking about like going back, your full focus isn't ahead. You remember that you can run back anytime. 100%. But when you can't run back, you either die or you win. And that's it.
So no plan B.
And I would much rather like lose my business or whatever it may be because I tried my best and it didn't work than to go back
100%
and just retreat. And that's the type of life I want to live. But that's one story that I value a lot, very famous in Muslim culture. And the other lesson is like, I think a lot of people mix what success is about, and they think that, success is about where you were brought up and like this and that. And I think that's, to an extent, that's right? Like, I'm more successful than most people that worked as hard as me because of the circumstances I was brought up in, right? There's people that lay bricks all day and that work way harder than me,
100%.
But they're never gonna get to this level because they don't have the same opportunities. That's fine. I believe that like if you're in a circumstance, it is harder. You need to work harder. You need to think faster and be better on your feet. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. The main thing here is like people think that success is just like an open door. It's not. There is a level of like opportunity that you need, but the most important factor of success, like let's say it's like a 100-meter stick, right? 80% of success is purely just consistency.
And showing up.
Whatever you do, literally whatever you do, it's just about like, can you show up every day? No matter if it's rain, sunshine, rainbows, whatever it may be. Like, can you show up every day? And I mean that literally and figuratively as well, right? Like mentally, can you be there and do the work that you need to do? For me, it was literally physically. I remember when I was in high school and going into college, I wanted to build a company. And I literally spent my first year of college literally taking a 3-hour train to go to the office Saturday, Sunday, and then go back to school Monday through Thursday, and then come back Saturday. And I would literally sleep like 6 hours a day, but I would show up to the office. Even though like I may have not made money from it, whatever it may be, I knew that I was gaining knowledge from the people I was around. But also I wanted to show everyone at that office
that you were a hustler,
that I was gonna show up every day. No matter if I had to go to school in a different state, no matter if I had to do something else, whatever it may be, I'm gonna show up every day. And I want it more.
100%.
That's one part of it. And then 10% of it is the opportunity, right? The more consistent you are, the more opportunities you'll have. And then the luckier you get. And that's it.
I love that, man. So, again, that's something that people don't understand. It's like, oh, like Arib's probably super lucky. You got this opportunity. No, it's like,
I'll agree. I am lucky.
But it's like the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, but there's what I'll say is like there's millions of people that have the same opportunities as me. But they're not in the same positions because they just didn't show up. And like there. I'm not saying I'm not lucky. I'm saying I am lucky. But I'm saying that everyone is lucky in some specific thing. And if you can just show up, you'll just get luckier. That's the main thing, right?
100%. I love that, man. And that's really good advice. Like it's very like, it's kind of like a super broad piece of advice to where it's like it can apply to anybody, right? Like anybody in any stage in any life can come in and be okay, like I know what I need to do. And honestly, it's just a commitment, it's just a consistency, and then just doing it right. I feel like you said, like you were in school 2-3 hours away, whatever it is, but it's like no matter what, I'm gonna show up. Like no excuses, no nothing. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna do it every day. And I feel like that's the same with me. It's the same with Mo. Started in real estate, no car, nothing. Drove down to trains to Cenat. Like it's all very similar stories that I hear.
That's why I don't want to go on the train today. Last time I was on the train was 2.5 years ago, and I would take the train from my school all the way to Oakland, 3-hour train, and I would get home at like 2 a.m. And that's why like I have bad memory.
You literally did not want to take the train.
I was like, bro, like I don't miss the train. But it's like those moments are what build character, right?
100%.
Like hard moments like that are what makes success worth it. And
100%.
And my friend Jordan Welch just dropped a video like 2 days ago talking about like he just sold his company for millions of dollars, but he's like, bro, like I don't feel anything anymore, and it's because the moments that are hard are the moments where you feel the most,
100%.
and those little wins are the wins that are going to feel the best, right? The hundreds of millions, like those are just numbers. Like the wins at the beginning are always going to feel better than the rest, and you only see 100%. That looking back. Like I can tell you this I can keep saying this all I can, but like you're not going to understand it. You're not going to understand it until you look back. And
it's, again, same thing. My mentor Sam used to tell me the same thing. He's like, bro, like it's not that great. Just like live your life, be happy. And in my head, I'm just like, no, bro. Like until you do it yourself and make it happen yourself and feel it, touch it. Again, hearing from you is great. I might understand it. A couple other people might understand it, but like until they do it themselves, feel it, it's not going to feel the same. And I tell everyone this, and we talked about this yesterday too. It's like there's a couple of different aspects of a man's life that needs to be fulfilled. It's like number one, it's like usually financial, and it's like until you get to that point, you think everything else is going to be fixed. But then you realize, no, there's more to that. There's the spiritual side of it. There's the love side of it. Like there's so many pieces more than just the financial side. But until you get that financial side, they're not gonna understand it.
Yeah, like even me, bro. Like I make a lot of money, but I still stress about money. Like I like paying for shit. I'm like, even though I shouldn't. It's just like that's just how I was brought up, right? Like I was brought up being frugal, and
100%.
And that's how it is. And I don't think like at some point your money like aspirations go away, but that's not a like number that you hit. It's more like a mindset that you understand. It's like, all right, cool, like I can just relax. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I have enough money to live, and that's it.
Arib, man, I love this. One thing I always ask all of my Hustler's Journey guests is like, who's someone in your shoes that you think that, you know, sitting on here on this podcast, and I asked you the same question last time. We'll see if you say the same person again.
I don't remember who
would you say, you know, would benefit the guests from sitting here and telling us their Hustler's Journey? Someone you look up to.
Dead or alive?
Alive. Someone can actually have on the show.
That's a really good question. I think someone that I look up to a lot is this guy named Hubert. Okay. He was one of my really good friend, and also just like advisor. He sold his company to Twitch. He was basically building the Discord competitor. They were huge. And he's taught me a lot of lessons. Very calm, collected guy. And he built this thing called I forgot what it's called. But a very big company. Okay. Curse Gaming, that's what it's called. So it's a lot of people won't know it, but it's like a big Minecraft forum thing back in the day, and had billions of page views. So he's taught me a lot about just like managing your emotions is very hard. Another part of it is like if you can manage your emotions well, that's how you can build a big company. And like not just that, he's taught me so many specific lessons about like your job as a CEO is to get rid of any cancer in your company. All right, like it's like these very hard decisions that you have to make them logically and not emotionally. And so that guy's someone that you should have on. But if you said dead, I would have had a lot of really good answers as well.
Nah, this is awesome, man. Arib, it's a pleasure, man. First repeat guest, youngest guest. You're killing it, bro. I'm super proud of you, and we're gonna run this back in 2 years, and I can only imagine where we're gonna be at.
Inshallah.
Good stuff, man.
Thank you, bro.